What difference does it make? It makes a lot of difference, particularly to people like our special guest, CLARE LOPEZ. Many of you know Claire. She's a regular guest on our show. She spent 20 years with the Central Intelligence Agency. Currently, she's working with Frank Gaffney's shop, Center for Security Policy, Vice President of Research and Analysis, but she also sits on the Benghazi Citizens Commission. That's a group of elite individuals, military, law enforcement, intelligence, brought together to get to the bottom, get to the facts of the Benghazi tragedy. Claire, great to have you back. How are you?
Thank you, Tom. Always good to be with you.
I have a document here that our friends over at Judicial Watch got from the United States government through FOIA requests. And we have some of Hillary Clinton's emails regarding the Benghazi situation. I want to read just a couple to you and get your reactions from this. Now, the context for this, folks, if you remember, September 11, 2012, the villa for Ambassador Chris Stevens was attacked. We lost 4 Americans on that horrible night. And then there's a series of events that took place. The State Department, the administration, and the Pentagon, and the Benghazi Citizens Commission, of which Claire is a member, is trying to sift through this and get the facts. Claire, I'm going to read one of the emails. This was September 14th, 3 days later, 2012. It is from a gentleman by the name of Sidney Blumenthal. That's him on the screen right. He is a dear friend of the Clintons, an advisor, an employee of their foundation, and an insightful individual in Washington for many years. On the left of that shot there is his son, who pops up in this email also, Max Blumenthal. Here's the email, Claire. It says simply, Hillary, Max knows how to do this and is fearless. Hopefully it's useful, gets around, especially in the Middle East. Keep clarifying. Your statements have been strong. Once through this phase, you might clarify a history of U.S. policy on Arab Spring, what has been accomplished, U.S. interests at stake, varying relations with Libya and Egypt, etc. And he goes on with another paragraph to rip to shreds Mitt Romney, who was 2 months from the general election in 2012. He calls Mitt Romney greedy. His menace comes from his emptiness. His greed is not limited simply to mere filthy lucre. This is Sidney talking about Mitt Romney. He will do anything to get ahead, usually self-immolating. He's also destructive. Behind his blandless lies, boundless ignorance, ignited by wretched judgment, on and on and on. But attached to this email, he had an article his son, Max Blumenthal, wrote about the movie Innocence of Muslims, saying that the movie was put together by American conservatives, Zionists, and the Israeli government were behind this movie. Sidney seems to be trying to tell Hillary, use this movie. Claire, your thoughts?
Well, let me lay the scene for this just a little bit. I think that in terms of the Islamic uprising of 2011, there were multiple motivations within the Obama administration for supporting that uprising by the Brotherhood and Al-Qaeda. I think in the White House, in the president's office, Barack Obama was motivated by a desire to elevate the Muslim Brotherhood to government across North Africa. I think that was ideological. It goes to the deep penetration by the Muslim Brotherhood of the Obama administration in many different positions of appointees and advisors, including, we might add, Huma Abedin at the Deputy Chief of Staff position for Hillary Clinton, then Secretary of State. But I think for Hillary Clinton, the motivation for getting behind this uprising, in particular in Libya, I think that motivation had more to do perhaps with monetary, with financial motivations. If this isn't the pot calling the kettle black, I don't know what is. I think that there were motivations on the part of Hillary Clinton and her advisors and circles around her and the Clinton Foundation, such as the Blumenthals, that they thought after the fall of Gaddafi, there would be lucrative financial contracts for them and their cronies. I think that was part of that motivation. So when we come to this part of it, how to assign the blame, this is crashing on their heads. It is, as you said, Tom, just a couple of months before the presidential election of 2012. Barack Obama is running for re-election on the motto that Osama bin Laden is dead, GM is alive, what is left of Al-Qaeda is on the run, and so on and so forth. Well, obviously, it has just attacked our mission in Benghazi and killed 4 Americans, including the ambassador. Al-Qaeda is not on the run. What are they going to do? So they glom onto this film, which, you know, may be suggested right here, as you say, in this this communication from Sidney Blumenthal, as the perfect vehicle, the perfect narrative that they can use, at least for the time being, to stopgap any true information about the fact that this was Al-Qaeda that attacked our ambassador and our mission. And further, the use of the film, which was considered to be insulting to Muslims, and the reason
any
why
film is
so
insulting
many
to Muslims, and we know that.
Broke out into demonstrations about it across the world. The film itself was the perfect vehicle, in other words. But beyond that, what I wanted to get to was that the State Department of Hillary Clinton had been working very closely over the previous several years with an international organization called the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, or OIC. This is the 57-member international organization of all Muslim countries in the world, 56 of them plus the Palestinian Authority, 57 members. And from 2005 until 2015, they had what they called a 10-year program of action. It's at their website, oic.com. And in it, the #1 objective for the OIC, that is for an organization that bills itself as representative of the entire Islamic Muslim Ummah of the entire world. #1 objective, criminalization of the criticism of Islam. And Secretary of State Clinton and our Department of State were working very closely with the OIC on that objective.
So they pick up on this movie. Listen to what Hillary does in response to this letter from Sidney. By the way, Sidney signs the email, "Keep speaking." And I'm looking at something the administration did not want to release. Hillary did not want to release this. Sidney signs it, "Keep speaking, XO Sid." Hillary goes on from there, asks for 3 copies of the article that Max wrote, and sent those 3 copies out, and responds to Sidney saying, "Your Max is a mitzvah. Your Max is a blessing. Your Max is a great deed." So she is blessing, according to this, her email. Do you agree, Claire? Max's
Yes.
work positioning this movie to be the raison d'etre of the uprising.
Yeah, certainly. And what we do know also from other reporting and other emails, really big tip of the hat to Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton, and you know, the Chris Farrell and the whole team over there for getting a hold of these things. But we know that on the night of the attack, around 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, that is Washington, D.C. time, Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, spoke with President Obama. And it was very shortly thereafter, minutes later, that the State Department issued its first press release about the attack, in which it blamed this YouTube video, Innocence of Muslims, for the attack. So that looks to be coordinated at the highest levels between Clinton and Obama. Now, next, we also know from other reporting and more emails that very shortly after the attack, orders went out from the White House in official communications, official cables that are now part of the public record, to 2 people. One, to Rashad Hussein, who at that time was the envoy of the White House to the OIC, an individual with many close Muslim Brotherhood connections. He is the envoy to the OIC. He is tasked to communicate with the OIC. We don't know exactly what he was to tell them, but we have a pretty good idea. The other person tasked was Huma Abedin, Muslim Brotherhood operative, Deputy Chief of Staff to Secretary of State Clinton, who is also tasked, likewise, to get the narrative out about the film being the cause of the attack on our mission in Benghazi. Of course, the story is false. Hillary Clinton herself knows it's false because, again, other emails have already shown that she communicated with her daughter Chelsea and with the foreign minister of Egypt that claimed very explicitly she knew that these attacks were terrorist attacks by Al-Qaeda.
And that brings us to the 14th, Friday the 14th, Sidney Blumenthal's email. You've updated and provided the political context by the administration to utilize. I mean, this was a perfect storm for them, they thought. They thought it was a perfect storm, with Max saying, "It's the movie," point to the movie. And now the next day, Saturday the 15th, I'm going to read you one more email. Sunday, we remember Susan Rice went on the air. What did she do on Sunday?
Well, Susan Rice, of course, at that time was the ambassador to the United Nations, U.S. ambassador to the UN. And for whatever reason, she's the one tapped to go on to the 5 Sunday morning talk shows. Not Hillary Clinton. She wasn't going to be out front with that. So she gets Susan Rice to do this for her. Susan Rice was briefed ahead of time about what she should say, and that the narrative, the false narrative about the YouTube video "Innocence of Muslims" was to be put forth as to blame the film for the attacks. Susan Rice either was too lazy or too incompetent to do her own research, or too lacking in integrity to tell the truth on those 5 morning talk shows, one or the other of those. She gets on and she blames the video 5 times in a row. Interestingly enough, on Meet the Press, she followed directly after the foreign minister of Libya, who at that time spoke to Meet the Press just before she went on, Ambassador Rice went on, and he blamed Al-Qaeda and terrorism for the attack on our mission. She gets up there and follows after and contradicts him directly, blaming the video, because this is now the narrative. It fits perfectly into the Obama administration narrative agenda item to work for the suppression of free speech, of our First Amendment rights, when it comes to any criticism of Islam.
The folks can't miss this timeline here. The attack occurred on September 11, 2012. Immediately, there's this pivot to this movie being the justification so that Obama can win 2 months later in the general election. On the 14th, Sidney Blumenthal sends a letter to Hillary, bailing her out with Max's article attached, blaming Zionists, Israel, and conservatives for the movie. Beautiful. This is again a perfect storm for them. Max Blumenthal, by the way, is 35 years old. In 2014, after the attack, after the Gaza war, he testified. Max Blumenthal covered the war in Gaza. He testified against the IDF, saying they committed war crimes. This is the individual who was providing the lead for Hillary. Now, she may be the next president of the United States of America, so take note of this. Look what happened between the 14th, Sidney Blumenthal's email, the 16th, Susan Rice propagating a lie. Look what happened on the 15th. Here's an email that occurred 10:43 in the morning, East Coast time, regarding the presidential daily brief. Hillary speaking, "I just woke up, so I missed Dan." 10:43 in the morning, "I just woke up, so I missed Dan." She missed the key call regarding the briefing she had to do for the day. Could he come back after I finish my calls? but I don't have the call schedule yet, so I don't know when that would be. Do you? She had no idea what's going on. She doesn't really understand, or she's going to push this movie. That's what took place on Saturday, the 15th. Then she hands the ball off to Susan Rice. Claire, we have an election coming up at the end of this year, and this individual's running for president. You spent a lot of time in Washington, D.C. We know human nature is human nature. Your thoughts as we close this segment?
Well, the trail of emails that are now coming to light, again, a massive tip of the hat to Judicial Watch for obtaining these through the FOIA process and the courts, which enforced the release of the emails, not only shows that Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was conducting U.S. business on a private server, unsecured, out of her home, and that hundreds upon hundreds of classified emails were found to be on that server. But in addition to that, she was being duplicitous about what was going on in Libya, deliberately duplicitous. She knew, and we know now too, from these emails, within minutes of that attack on our mission in Benghazi, she knew, and the entire top ranks of the U.S. government knew. I mean, the Pentagon, the Department of Defense, the intelligence community, and of course the State Department, all knew this was a terrorist attack by armed assailants with automatic weapons, RPGs, attacking the mission, and that it was Al-Qaeda, that it was Ansar al-Sharia. They knew this. She is deliberately being duplicitous about that when we now know she knew, as well as the rest of the top level of the government knew. And for what reason? To further the agenda with the OIC, to criminalize criticism of Islam, to further erode First Amendment rights of Americans, to make it a crime to do or say or publish or print anything that would be critical of Islam, a legal system. It's not even just a religion, it's a legal system, a political, military, totalitarian system of social control. And that has to be the question that we are looking at as Hillary Clinton and the others are running for president this year. Is this a person with integrity or not, who should be even running for president, much less seriously considered to be elected?
All right, Claire Lopez, thank you once again for your great work. You are truly an American hero. And folks, our series on Benghazi, what difference does it make? We will continue. We'll have some thoughts in further segments. But the bottom line is, if nothing else, this is a graphic illustration of the failure of this administration regarding the rules of engagement. We lost 4 good Americans on that evening, September 11th, 2012. Be sure to go see the movie Benghazi, 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi. It is going to be, we have nothing to do with the movie. We've read the book, we've heard about the movie, a very dispassionate analysis of what took place, and a handful of brave Americans saved many more Americans on that night. If the rules can be changed, we could have avoided all of this. We are doing tremendous work on producing an investigative documentary entitled Fallen Angel. Go to fallenangelthemovie.com. Check out what we will be doing. Our purpose is to honor those who died on Extortion 17, but ultimately change the rules of engagement so that situations like Extortion 17 and Benghazi no longer occur. Tom Trento for the United West, thank you very much.
إلى الحق سلطانه ودكوا معاقيل جند